All right. Is this my turn now, John?
Well, we're gonna give it a few minutes until we have a quorum.
Okay.
I'm gonna text a couple people to find out what's going on.
We are live.
Council, Planning Commission. Well, so far I'm having no luck.
How many more do we need for a quorum?
It's a 7-member commission, so I think we need 4.
Okay.
Commissioner Brennis, there's something moving by you. Maybe we could appoint them to the planning commission for purposes of making a quorum.
Yeah. His name is Aussie, and he just decided that he wants to be on my lap.
Well, all I see is a kind of a tail flicking every so often.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my cat. Well, he could be an interim commissioner.
Oh, okay. Well, see you in a few then. Thank you. All right, Leroy is logging in. Hello, Ben. Okay, great. You can attend in person too if you would like. Okay, great, thanks, Ben.
Commissioner Brennan, for the record, our dog Olaf has just joined the meeting as well.
Okay, we should have Leroy Wagoner logging in soon, and then Ben Dawson is going to be coming in the building here shortly. So as soon as we get a fourth person in the room, we will begin our meeting. Hey, Sherry. I think, isn't Kurt Nelson, didn't he resign? I still have him on my list. I think we have a vacancy. I don't think this is accurate. Hello, Leroy. Looks like we have a quorum, so I'm going to share my screen. If you would like, Commissioner Ricewick, would you like me to share the board doc screen, or how would you like me to?
At some point, I think I'm okay here for the first part.
Okay,
So are we ready to call the meeting to order?
yes. Are we ready,
Right.
Sherry? Hang on a second. Let's hear from Sherry to make sure we're ready.
Yes,
Okay, we're ready to go? Okay, great.
And Sherry, what number of meeting is this? Or do we care about that?
Oh, we didn't list that this time. This is
Say 411.
Pardon, I missed that.
411.
411.
Yes.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the 411th Planning Commission meeting on September 20, 2022. At, it appears 7:09 this evening. So next we do the roll call, correct, John?
yes.
Commissioner Brennis,
Present.
Commissioner Wagoner,
I'm here. Late.
Commissioner Ricewick is here. Who else do we need to call on, John?
We have our new Ruben Alvarado is a recently appointed to position 2. He's present. Did I get your last name correct?
Yeah, correct. And I'm present.
And then position 5 is vacant. That's Kurt Nelson has actually resigned, so that's a vacancy. And then Todd, you're present. And then Ben Dawson should be on his way, and we'll make a note when he attends the meeting.
Yeah, and John Rickard and Greg Dorn are in attendance this evening as well. So did we have any public comment?
We had no just general public comment.
Yeah.
There is
So-
one person in the attendees list.
Okay.
Would anyone in the attendees list like to make a comment? Please raise your hand. Yes, there is a comment.
Okay, it looks like Connie Kruger is in attendance and she'd like to speak.
Connie Kruger would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead and speak, Connie.
I am just here watching the meeting tonight, so no concerns, just here for the public hearing. And that's all.
Well,
I think
wonderful. Welcome.
I accidentally hit the hand and maybe I didn't mean to, but anyway, hello, everyone.
Thank you,
Technology
Connie.
is wonderful.
Yeah, well, those hands are tempting. You just want to touch them.
All right. If we have no other public comments, then I believe we'll move forward with approving the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve, or do we need to discuss anything on the consent agenda before we do that?
I will move to approve the consent agenda, Commissioner Brenes.
I would
Commissioner
second.
Brennan?
I would second it. That's Wagner.
All in favor?
All
Or
right.
anybody? All right, anybody opposed? Well, with none opposed, I believe the approval of the consent agenda is approved. So John, does that include the approval of the minutes, or is that a separate item?
Approval of the consent agenda approves everything in that, listed in that, in the consent agenda item category. So you approved the minutes from May 17th, 2022, and then the
Perfect.
agenda.
All right. So at this point, John, then do I go ahead and turn this over to you for the regular agenda item on the 2022 Annual Unified Development Code update?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to share the board doc screen so everybody can see what we're looking at. So over the last year, the Planning Commission has been looking at potential amendments to the College Place Development Code with a key interest in any modifications that can assist with affordable housing. We looked back to the recently adopted Walla Regional Housing Action Plan as kind of a guiding document that was approved by council the year before last. And then we also developed a new chapter called Master Development, which we believe is going to be a new tool to assist with large developments in the community. And then, of course, there were some housekeeping items that we had to attend to, including a minor map amendment. We, of course, had to go through environmental review. We issued a determination of non-significance. That was sent out to the Department of Ecology. Anytime we amend our development regulations, we also have to reach out to the Department of Commerce and provide them with a copy of what our proposed changes are. They do a review of that. We requested, I think, an expedited review because we felt that our changes were relatively minor, and they granted that. Of course, we had the routine public notice requirements. We started advertising for these changes in July, again in August, and then lastly, the first part of September. So there's been ample time for the public to see these notices, and all of the changes were posted on our city website and available for public review. We did not receive any written comments from the public regarding the changes. With that, those are kind of just the procedural stuff that I just went over that need to get on the record. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg Dorn. Greg Dorn has been our consultant, as you're all aware, on planning related items. And he's going to cover in greater detail the changes that are before you this evening. And then after that presentation by Greg, feel free to ask questions as Greg goes along or afterwards. Commissioner Reiswig, I would ask that once Greg is done, that you ask if go around the room basically and ask if any of the commissioners have any comments individually. And once that's been completed, then we'll open up for a public hearing. We don't have anybody in attendance at City Hall right now. Not to say somebody might not walk in the door, and it looks like we still only have one person in attendance through Zoom. So, but at any rate, we'll have to go through that process. So, Greg, if you would like to take the floor.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
John, could you put up the last item there? Go scroll the way down, that one, Exhibit A. So commissioners, these are changes that we have discussed in the past, and they're highlighted on the screen. I'll go through them relatively quickly. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll go through them. As John said, have the public hearing, and then afterwards, we will have plenty of time for you to discuss them if you want to discuss any of them as a commission. But briefly stated, the revisions include making multifamily dwellings a permitted use in the general commercial zone. And that's reflected right at the top here. We also had a clarification that a single family dwelling could be used as a caretaker or manager's residence within the mobile home manufactured park district. The more significant changes perhaps were in the next section, where you'll see the minimum, the maximum lot coverage requirement has been eliminated in the residential zones, so that the lot, the amount of the lot that is covered by building footprints would be determined based on things like setback requirements, parking, landscaping requirements, building heights, and the like, and would not be subject to a lot coverage standard per se. As an aside, I'm working in another city where they have a 40% lot coverage requirement, and had a situation where a house was built over 100 years ago with 2 outbuildings on it, which happened to be 80 years before the lot coverage standard was adopted. The family now wants to put an addition on the house so they could take care of an adult member of their family that needs some additional care, but that addition would put them over the 40% limitation. And the city is now having to go through a variance process to determine whether they're going to be able to do that. So I can say from experience, there can be some flexibility and some potential benefits by eliminating that standard and relying on the other development standards, as is the case in the commercial and industrial districts. We also have, as you've discussed, an amendment that would eliminate the maximum density standard in the multifamily zone, and once again utilize building height and setback requirements, landscaping and parking and the like as the basis for that. And John is going to scroll down, and we had not discussed this before. We had discussed adding this footnote 16, but just to avoid any confusion, we should, when we get to the point of taking action, if you're so inclined, have a motion to strike 15B that provides the methodology for determining density. But if there is no density standard in the multifamily zone, we don't need the methodology. So it's not critical, but it would be an appropriate housekeeping measure. So,
Greg,
yep.
I think a little bit before that, you said we were eliminating the maximum density in the single family residential zone.
Multifamily, correction. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Mike, if I did, that was certainly unintended, not correct.
That would be a big change.
That would be.
I think there'll be a lot more people here.
Just checking to see if anybody is listening. So I saw Ossie's tail just start wagging like crazy when I said that. Another change would be to permit duplexes to be constructed on the same size lot as single family residences in the single family residential zone. Currently now you have to have a larger lot for a duplex, but if you can have a single family residence and an accessory dwelling unit on a 6,000 square foot lot, why not allow a duplex? So you have that change. And then those were the ones that were related specifically to the Regional Housing Action Plan. There is also another chapter which would establish a process for approving master plan developments in all zoning districts. And then there are some housekeeping measures clarifying how corner lots are measured and how a lot width is measured. So those are some of the key provisions. Also striking some of the additional standards that previously were in place that would apply to multifamily housing in the general commercial district. And finally, as John mentioned, there is one technical adjustment to the maps. And you may recall, for those that have been on the commission for a while, that the old PUD or planned unit development zoning, when we eliminated that zoning district, we converted the zoning in all of those areas that had been zoned planned unit development to match what the development that actually occurred. But there was one oversight, and there were two parcels that should have been designated multifamily that were not. And so in order to be consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan and the language in the development regulations, those two parcels should have in fact been zoned multifamily, and we have highlighted them on the official zoning map as a technical adjustment or correction to make sure that the map corresponds with the intended outcomes. So those are the items before you tonight. Commissioner, when you are so inclined, you certainly can open the hearing, see if there's any testimony. And as you close the hearing, then you can certainly have opportunity for discussion among the commissioners and answer any additional questions you might have. Whether you do it tonight or at a subsequent meeting, the hope is that the commission will make a recommendation on these items that would be forwarded to the city council for their consideration before the end of the calendar year. So, John, is there anything you'd like to add before I turn it over to the commissioner?
Well, I think we kind of glossed over the changes in the mixed use section, where we originally had a requirement that if you wanted to do mixed use, they had to be in a vertical sense, and then there was some requirement that the building's front and arterial street. So there's been some changes in housing standards regarding mixed use development, where you can just have mixed use within the entire commercial zone. It doesn't have to necessarily be in a vertical mixed use. And then, Greg, can you go over maybe the master plan development in a little bit greater detail?
Sure. If you would scroll down, John, to get to that. This will be new for Commissioner Alvarado, but for the other commissioners, this is based on language from other cities, and the intent is particularly for larger parcels or properties that would be developed over in phases or over many years to provide a process for establishing, reviewing through a public process, approving, and then implementing master plan developments. So the regulations set out what the intent of the regulations and the process is. That's on the screen now. And then, John, as we scroll down, and continue to scroll, it talks about what constitutes a master plan development and the city's authority to designate one. It is a project sponsor can request it, but the designation is at the sole discretion of the city. And if a proposed development is designated as eligible for consideration as a master plan development, then it goes through a public process, and the master plan establishes the development standards for the project, the permitted uses, and the like, all of which is intended to help provide a degree of flexibility, but also to help ensure compatibility with the neighboring land uses. The master plan development goes through a SEPA process, which is inherently a public process and provides opportunities for neighboring property owners and agencies to comment. And it, as I mentioned, there is the authorized within the process the ability to establish alternative standards. So there's a degree of flexibility that is available to the developer. And John, as you scroll down, certainly an emphasis on mixed use developments. and a process that includes review and evaluation by the city's development review team, out to public review and comment, and a public hearing is involved. In all likelihood, there would be a development agreement prepared that would accompany the master plan development through the approval process. The development agreement is a form of a contract which specifies the obligations of the city and of the project sponsor over time. And so it creates a mechanism for ensuring that what was approved is what is built and developed, and mechanisms also for the city to recover costs associated with the review and evaluation of the application. And John, as you scroll down further, then and we get, as I said, get to the point of having a staff report available for public review and comment, along with a preliminary SEPA threshold determination, which identifies potential mitigating measures. And as you go down further, John, then also then the city hearings examiner conducts a public hearing, and if the planning commission is so inclined, planning commission may also comment on the proposed master plan development, and then the examiner's recommendation goes to the city council for review and approval. And there are 2 or 3 or 4 parcels in the city that are larger scale that might particularly lend themselves to this type of development. And this would then be the process, if approved by the city council, that it would go through.
So in this, if this is adopted as shown, the hearing examiner is not the final, they're making a recommendation similar to like what the planning commission is doing tonight, and the final decision would be to the city council.
Yes, and the thought is that since it's a larger scale development, it involves potentially a multi-year commitment, and it involves potentially some alternative standards that the city council should be the ones that has the final review and approval authority and the ultimate accountability to the community. But it would go through several levels of review, at least 2 rounds of public review and comment, review by the city development review team, review by the city hearings examiner, and recommendations from city staff and the city examiner. And if the planning commission was so inclined, there may also be comments from the planning commission on the record, particularly as it relates to consistency with the comprehensive plan. So it would be an extensive process, but an appropriate process in my experience, given the nature of the development activities.
And then the zoning map amendment that Greg was talking about, I didn't have it up when he was talking about it, but in particular, it has to do with we have a couple of assisted living facilities at the intersection of Whitman and Larch, and then Whitman and Alpine. When we made some changes to the codes, it resulted in, when we eliminated the PUD zone, these two properties were part of a planned unit development. Those zones, that zone disappeared and the zoning reverted back to the original underlying zone, which was single family residential. And what we had failed to do for these two particular properties, because we made those types of uses permittable in the multifamily zones. Well, we had already changed in the comprehensive plan the land use to multifamily, but when we did the rezone, we failed to change them to multifamily. So that's what this map amendment is about, is making that.
So, yeah, it brings the zoning in alignment with the comprehensive plan and with the use of the property. So it's, in that sense, it's a technical adjustment because the comprehensive plan says what it should be and the current use reflects what it is. And the inconsistency is there was with the zoning. And so it was a relatively easy matter to bring everything into alignment.
I think with that, we'll turn it back over to Commissioner Ricewig.
All right. Thank you, John, for highlighting which two parcels those were. I was going to ask for that. I have a quick clarification question for the commissioners for you, John, from the commissioners. Everything that we just went over, with the exception of the 15B and that rezoning of those two parcels, this is all documentation and stuff we've already seen, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
All right, that's what I remembered. Okay. Do any of our commissioners have any questions about any of the subjects that we've just discussed?
I'll wait until after if there's a public, well, after we close public hearing.
Okay.
Do any of the commissioners need either Mr. Dorn or Mr. Rickard to go over any of the other items that we have there in the regular agenda? Or have you had a chance to review all those documents? You're all very quiet this evening. While they're thinking, John, I have a quick question for you. Under the regular agenda, the only thing I noticed different with 3.3 versus 3.1 was there was a map in 3.3, and I believe, if my memory serves me, only one other document, which was the same as what's up in 3.1. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I put those in there basically for ease of access to them if I needed to open them up when we had moved to the different agenda items.
Perfect. Well, if none of our commissioners have any questions that they need clarified, John, would it be appropriate to open the motion to strike 15B now or wait until after the public hearing?
We should conduct a public hearing first.
Okay. Well, commissioners, if you don't have anything else, any other questions, at this time, let's go ahead and open the public hearing on the 2022 Annual Unified Development Code update, sorry. And that was at 7:40. So do we have any public comment or questions that we've received written for that?
We have no written comments. And it does not appear that we have anyone in attendance that is raising their hand to provide public testimony.
Well, if that is the case, I believe it would then be appropriate to close the public hearing at 7:41.
Could we get a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second by Commissioner Brennis.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So I guess it is so moved again at 7:41.
So the way I've structured the recommended action, Exhibit A has that last minute amendment as struck from the proposal. So I don't think you need to call it out necessarily if you don't want to, but.
So what you're saying, John, is we don't need to necessarily have a motion to strike that. If we approve Exhibit A, it effectively does that then for us.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe at this time, and you correct me if I'm wrong, John, but do we have anyone who would like to motion to approve that?
I do have a quick question, as Commissioner Alvarado.
Okay.
Under section D of the proposed master plan development, I guess it's after it says introduction, section D talks about how applicants will be encouraged, and then, you know, various ways that they'd be encouraged to innovate, having innovative facilities, things like that. I'm curious if there's other language that gives that perhaps more depth, how they would be encouraged, or what that looks like, or what that means. Okay. It's page 6. Letter D. Yeah, no, letter D. There you go.
I think as written, I think what that typically would be in the informal pre-application and the more formal pre-application discussions between the city staff, city development review team, and the project sponsor is where that encouragement would occur. And so that I think as written, that's how it would occur. And then, Commissioner, I'm not sure if you could restate your question, but I think that is how it would occur.
Sure. Yeah, I would, as a developer, I would say thank you for the encouragement, and I will go ahead and move forward with my idea or how I want to do it. And so I'm just curious if there's other sections that may speak to incentives or ways to for developers to be able to actually be encouraged by some form of mechanism. I don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
John, I was going to say that I'm not aware of any sections where there would be incentives other than the incentive to have a master plan development approved, but there's no specific incentives I'm aware of in terms of, for instance, a project sponsor providing pedestrian circulation or enhanced use of open space and the like. So that would occur informally in discussions, but there's nothing in the regulations that kind of establishes a formal incentive for that.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to this, obviously, me being new, but might be something to revisit in the future if we do see this type of development become more desired, and if it meets the needs of the city.
Yeah, I think that might be a very good way to do it. And in the past, as regulations are adopted, John's been very good about reporting back to the commission on here's what seems to be working, here's what we've learned, and here might be some adjustments. So that might be a very appropriate way, Commissioner, to kind of flag that and see how it works or doesn't work, and potentially target that for future discussion based on experience.
Thank you for indulging me.
Gladly. Do we have any other comments from or questions for any of from the commissioners? Oh. So if not, then John would now be an appropriate time for someone to motion to approve as written.
Yeah, yes.
Is anybody
And
willing
John,
to do that?
John, to clarify, would it be two motions, one to recommend approval of Exhibit A to the City Council, and then a second amendment to recommend the technical adjustments to the official zoning map? Would it be two motions, John?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Greg. Let's start with the College Place map. Anybody would like to propose that we accept that?
I'll make that
adjustment?
motion. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Anybody second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Well, with that, I believe that has been approved to recommend that to the city. Let's move forward then with the amendments for the public review draft. Is anybody willing to propose that we submit that as written?
So Commissioner Brennis making a motion to recommend the City Council approve the proposed amendments as shown in Exhibit A, potential amendments to the Unified Development Code.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennis. Anybody second?
I'd like to second it.
Thank you. Commissioner Dawson. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Well, John, I believe that also passed.
Thank you.
So moving on, do we have any reports?
We don't have any reports for you.
Okay. Do we have any other business?
Nope.
Negative. All right. So I believe that means we move on to closing items.
So we don't have any additional items on the docket for the remainder of the year. So I have a recommended action that we cancel October, November, and December, and then come back in January.
So I have a question for you, John.
Yeah.
If we do that, then what's going to happen is what we've approved will go to the city council. They'll do their thing, assuming they'll accept what we've recommended, or they make any adjustments, and those will be the things that we'll then address in January.
Yes. Yeah. If there was anything that they want, they could remand it back to the planning commission, and then we would have to meet. And that could be done late this year, or we could bring it back up in January.
Okay.
Be nice to get it wrapped up this year.
Yeah, I anticipate that the council will likely adopt what you guys recommend.
Well, I think we've been fairly thorough and everybody's had plenty of opportunity to review it and make comments, so hopefully they will.
Yeah, so my plan is to take this, if Greg's available, we'll bring it, we may bring it to their workshop in October. That have a first reading at the first council meeting in October and then adoption at the last meeting in October.
Very good. So John, do you need a motion from one of us to cancel October, November, and December planning meetings?
Ideally,
Okay. Would any of the commissioners like to motion that we cancel October, November, and December's planning commission meetings based on the recommendation of our plan of the planning department?
Motion to cancel the October, November, December planning.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like that carried, so we will meet again in January. Watch for those good reminder emails that keep us on our toes. So I guess that moves us to good of the order. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order? Would that be either John or Greg or any of the commissioners?
last meeting of the year, so.
I actually,
Go ahead, sorry.
I have a quick question. As we look forward to next year, I know in theory, I believe it's the end of next month, emergency powers will be relinquished by our governor. As we look into next year, are we anticipating that all the meetings will be in person or will we continue with the blended?
So we will have to continue to have the hybrid options available for those that choose to attend remotely. And that may end up being the preferred method as we hopefully enter an actual renovation of this space, update it. I mean, we will still have the option to meet in person. We'll be doing it over at the fire department.
Okay. And Commissioner Dawson, did you have a comment?
I just wondered if you could give us, or if you had, or could give us a short or brief overview of what we're going to be dealing with starting in January.
Oh. Honestly, I haven't even begun to think about it.
Yep.
Greg, have you been putting any thoughts to it?
Well, I'm wondering, John, if there would be potential revisions to the countywide planning policies that
Thank you.
would be ready for council commission review.
Well, I don't think they'll be ready in January. We're still working to get the county on board. We have a draft interlocal agreement that's been reviewed by the city of Walla Walla, put it together. Our city attorney and planning has reviewed it, and we're in agreement with this interlocal agreement. But the county has yet to give the thumbs up. We need the three agencies to be working together to hire a consultant basically to update these countywide planning policies that date back to 1984 or 94, Greg? 84.
84, way back.
It's time to change.
Oh, it was 94. They're 94. But at any rate, they're way outdated. They've only been amended once and it was a very, very minor amendment. And, you know, this document is, you've heard me talk about this before, but for Ruben's sake, this document really is what will help guide us in determining how much land we allocate in the next urban growth amendment cycle, and there's other, you know, details within it that need to be addressed. You know, allocation of growth basically is the biggest thing that needs to be addressed. Elizabeth Chamberlain and Preston Frederickson and I have been fairly relentless trying to get the county planning office to participate, and we've had a few meetings over the year, but it's hasn't made the traction that we had hoped. We were really hoping that we would be well along the way of working through that process in 2022. Our next mandated amendment cycle for the comprehensive plan is 2026. And these countywide planning policies need to be updated well in advance, because there's a lot of work that goes into prepping and, you know, being prepared for going into that amendment cycle before you start talking to the community. We need to know, you know, how much growth we've had, how much we're anticipating. You know, there's a lot of analysis that goes into it. So provided that we are able to get into some sort of in a process for updating the countywide planning policies, we will be involved in the planning commission in that process and updating you regularly on that process. So that will be the big thing if we can get rolling on that.
Good. I hope we're successful. So does anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
Nice to
So-
meet you all. We meet you all, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. I actually have one last item, John. It sounds like we have at least one, if not two vacancies. Mr. Roth resigned and moved away from our fine town. So it leaves us without a chair. I am happy to stay as the vice chair, but due to my work schedule, I'm not sure that I would like to step up to the chair position at this time. So I'm guessing we need to elect a new chairperson.
Yeah, we typically do that at the beginning of the year. I could have had it on tonight, but I actually kind of lapsed my memory when I was setting the agenda up. But yeah, we only have one vacancy. It's position 5. Kurt Nelson, who was with us for a short period, resigned, and Ruben Alvarado has taken the position 2. So
Copy.
yeah, which replaced Brian's position.
All right. Well, then I would say all of you fine folks think about your desire to be chairperson in the new year, and we will address that issue in January.
That's good.
So it looks like to me, if we have nothing else for the good of the order, that we can conclude our meeting. So I would need a motion to conclude the meeting.
Make a motion to conclude the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Dawson. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Well, John, it looks like that motion also carries. That would close out our 411th Planning Commission for the City of College Place on September 20, 2022 at 8 p.m.
Thank you all for your hard work this past year. I know it's daunting at times and repetitive, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thanksgiving.
See you all later.
Bye.